people. So, uh, this here is that whole video of that line of energy that came in to the valley here from the extreme southwest. And I'm just going to advance it forward here. And what you're going to watch is right here in the very middle. There's a line of energy here that's visible. And then as it progresses and moves down in, it just kind of moves in slowly. And I'll put a link to this original video in the description and in the comments. There's one of the beams right there that popped off. And watch that line of energy. It actually turns into a visible double line. You can see two different lines here as well. And it just pushes in. And then as it pushes down in, it begins to draw up energy right there. You can see it begins to draw up energy. And now we know from all of the testing and everything that they did, we can watch the videos that they put up that shows the same type of reaction with what would happen with a detonation, with a blast wave. And then it goes right back in. So at one point here, you can see where it kind of becomes visible. It's very, very faint in the very beginning of this video. You really have to look close in the center of the screen. But there's a very faint line right there, a glowing line of energy. And it comes down, it presses in on our atmosphere, multiple layers of our atmosphere, actually, not just one. And it was popping off these beams and these coils and stuff. There it is. You can see the double line appear. And then it begins to draw up the energy from ground level, and you're seeing sweeping beams in the background. You have to look really close, but if you look throughout this capture, there's these beams that are sweeping through in the background and in the present location where the camera is located as well. So it draws up energy and then it pushes it right down in and it gets absorbed here into the valley. Now, whatever this was, okay, not only were we subjected to whatever this energy was, it was coming clearly from the upper atmosphere and it was not coming from the sun, folks. This line of energy was not coming from the sun. The sun was way up in the sky at this time of year. On this day, the sun was very high in the sky, and I'll do a separate video to show that as well, of the position of the sun. The sun was way high up in the sky above our location at this time. The line of energy did not come from the sun. This came from the extreme southwest, and it carried with it a great amount of energy. And as it was coming in and pushing down on our atmosphere, it was pushing everything that was up in the atmosphere and all those layers down onto us as well. We got subjected to all of that matter, all those particles and all that particulate that was up in the upper atmosphere up here would have pretty much been purged and forced down onto us here at ground level, thus creating a nice clean energy or space out here to the extreme South Pacific. It would have been purged. It would have been purified. The air out there would have been purged and purified, and it all would have been forced down on us here in southern Nevada. And I don't think that we should have been subjected to that, because I find it very curious that in the years to follow, there were a lot of very strange events that were going on throughout 2019 and then throughout 2020 as well, that would just suggest that we were subjected to something here, folks. And do you think they would tell us? No, they're not going to tell us. And I find the date very curious. This was on August 11th of 2018, and I'll do a separate video as well to show some of the paperwork that I have on an operation called Operation Orange. And I find Orange curious because Orange is 33. And then you have Trump, who was in office. What does most people know him as? Orange Man Bad, right? Orange Man Bad. And he was in office at this time when this was popped off and when this breached our atmosphere. Trump was in office. And then 7 months later, in March of 2019, Trump signs executive orders to strengthen our resilience to EMPs. And now here's a close-up view of it. Let me back that up. I'm just going to let that play forward. You see the line of energy here. This is zoomed in on it. But yeah, in March of 2019, Trump signs executive orders to strengthen our resilience to EMPs. And the dates are curious because on August 11th of 1958, which would have been 60 years prior to this right here that I captured happening, they were doing Operation Hardtack. And one of the shots that they popped off in the Pacific out there, out by Hawaii even, which I find is curious because what do we have? Hawaii is burning right now, folks. I don't know if y'all have seen any of the images. Maybe I'll try to do another video where I'll pull up some of that information on what's going on in Hawaii right now. I find the date curious just because back in 1958, on August 11th of 1958, they popped off a shot, and it was one of the most secret tests ever. The most clandestine nuclear test done was on August 11th of 1958. It would have been 60 years to the day that I captured this line of energy coming in from that direction, from that extreme south. And then again, Hawaii is burning. And the dates are so curious because it was on March 19th of 1959, which is curious date because growing up, my birthday actually is March 18th, and that's what it says on my birth certificate. But growing up for the longest time before I was able to see my birth certificate, my birthday was celebrated on March 19th. I had an older sibling that would always get me two birthday cards. I would get one on the 18th and one on the 19th. And it was always in my family always celebrated my birthday on the 19th. And then when I saw my birth certificate, I had to go by the 18th for legal purposes and taxes and all that stuff. So I started observing it on the 18th. But for the first part of my life as a kid, my birthday was celebrated on March 19th. And I find it curious that on March 19th of 1959 was when Eisenhower officially made it known. They did not tell the public. Hell, they didn't even tell most of their personnel that were involved in the operation that they were being guinea pigs and tested on with this most clandestine Operation Orange nuclear test. And what is the color of this line of energy coming down in? If you look close at it, this is not altered in any way. This video footage is as it was captured, as it was recorded. That line of energy looks kind of orange to me. And again, because I'm repetitive, I have to say it again. The dates are curious. August 11th of 2018, I captured this. And on August 11th of 1958, 60 years prior, they popped off one of the most clandestine and secret nuclear tests out in the Pacific called Operation Orange, which is 33. And one of the task forces that was created to handle it was also called 88. The number 88 was associated with that, which is a dual 33s. So there's all this 33 symbolism involved, folks. And I think we were subjected to something, and I gotta end this video because I'm starting to get a little bit overwhelmed at the thought that our military and our government, and not all of our government, I'm willing to bet that our legislators and representatives and all of these all of these politicians, they had no clue this was going on. This was a military operation. This was the MIC taking the liberty of doing something out there and testing something against our knowledge without us knowing. And something like this, like I said, because I'm repetitive, I'm going to say it again. This would have swept everything out of the upper atmosphere and forced it down here to ground level. We would have been subjected to particulates and matter that was up there in that upper atmosphere to the extreme southwest, forced down upon us. And you know what that can cause, folks. That can cause degradation, severe degradation to some people, can weaken immune systems and make people more susceptible to the viral loads in society. I don't think I need to remind you of what went on during 2020 and what is still trying to go on right now. I'm going to end this video, but I'm going to put a bunch of links in the description, and you can check out some of the other videos where I show the maps and I show the location and the angle of this and how this did not come from the sun. I want to repeat that, because that bears repeating, and because I'm repetitive, this did not come from the sun. This came from the extreme South Pacific. And again, today we have Hawaii burning, and Hawaii looks like it's been bombed out. And it was 65 years ago to the date today. And they didn't tell a lot of people, folks. And I have those files. I'll do another video and show a reading of some of those files and stuff too, and show you the dates. I find the dates more than curious, especially since I know and understand that our military operates on very strict schedules. And when they have an objective to meet and an agenda to meet, they don't let nothing get in their way. Failure is not an option. All they have to do is just deviate a little bit off of that line. But eventually they get themselves back on that main objective. And whatever their main objective is when it comes to testing these kind of things, they're doing it without my consent. I don't know about y'all, but if that's what they did back on August 11th of 2018, is test something out there in the extreme South Pacific while Trump was in office. Y'all say about how Trump is the greatest president, how he never started any wars or anything like that. But what if it was an attack? What if it wasn't us? These are things that the public has a right to know. What if we were attacked on that day? What if it wasn't our MIC? Like I suspect it was just a test. What if we were attacked?
Okay, folks. So I want to share some additional information just to kind of present a timeline, because I find the dates very curious, okay? And it's one of those things where there's so much symbolism in so much of the stuff that goes on and what's popping off right now. And the dates I find very curious. You know, back on August 11th there, when that came in, and the date is curious when you look back on history and what's recorded history anyway with some of these operations when it comes to nuclear testing and stuff. And I just the dates are curious because we know that the military operates and functions on very strict routines. Okay, they have objectives, short term, long term, mid-term, you name it. They have objectives that span over decades, and they have routines, and failure is not an option, and they'll stop at nothing to achieve an objective. Even if they have to deviate off that main line a little bit, they've always got a plan in place for when that deviation occurs. That's why they practice all the time. But as far as all of this nuclear testing goes, I mean, there was so much of it. And I have this file here that's pretty interesting. I'll probably share in another video. And this is an interesting file. I might try to get it uploaded onto locals as well. I've uploaded a bunch of PDF files onto my locals channel, which will be available to anybody to access off of my locals, because they allow you to upload PDF files, which I think is really, really cool. But I'll try to get this one up on there too. But this is kind of interesting. This shows all of the different nuke testing, and it's, you know, it's pretty detailed information. It's really small, really fine print. But this is, you know, a list of all of the nuke testing by name, and it's 2 pages. This is front and back of all of the nuke testing that they've done. You know. And this file here is by date, which is what I want to focus on in this video, is by date, because I find the date of August 11th very curious. Not only that, it's, you know, on a personal note, my mother would have been 82 back on August 8th, but it was on August 11th when her and my dad were married, and today would have been their 63rd wedding anniversary. So I think that's kind of curious. Anyway, August 11th. And August 12th as well, because there is that timeline jump over. Because when I captured that back on August 11th of 2018, technically in our time zone it was August 11th still, because it was really late evening, right before midnight. But according to the UTC time schedule, it would have already been into August 12th, which would have been 8/12. So I find that curious, because in these files here, and I'll go into some more about Operation Fishbowl in another video if anybody's interested. There's so much information out there for people to gather up, and I try to print it out, because I believe that very soon here there's going to become a time when these e-files and e-books are not going to be available, because they're going to shut this down. They're going to shut this information line. They're going to shut the webs down. They're going to shut our full communication lines down. They need to. They need to get a handle on some of these narratives, because they've lost so much control and so much has already been exposed. And like I said before, because I'm repetitive, I got to say it again, they're going to need another very large distraction in order to move past all of the crap that they've put everybody through here, you know? And Operation Hardtack, I have that full file too, but I want to talk more specifically about Operation Argus, which was part of the Hardtack. And Teak was another one. There was Argus 1, 2, and 3, and then of course there was Starfish Prime. I have that one here too. I have a little bit of, and of course you have to consider the source on some of this information that's available. I was able to get this information here from Wiki on Starfish Prime, but that's another one. And then, you know, you have all these other ones, but I want to talk about Hardtack Orange. And more specifically, I want to talk about the date that Hardtack Orange was launched. And I find that curious because the word orange, to anybody that might be familiar with who RV Truth is, Ben, he has a YouTube channel. Now he's does videos doing wrestling stuff too. He has a wrestling channel. Anyway, he's pointed out a few times, and I believe I've pointed out a few times, the word orange is 33 if you do the calculation, okay? And I find that curious because what do a lot of people associate Trump with? Orange man bad, right? And typically when you see him on the TV doing his stuff, especially prior to 2020, leading up to 2020, if he was featured on any of the mainstream channels or the news networks, he was more orange than ever, you know? So I find that curious too, because Trump was in office on August 11th of 2018 when I captured that coming into the southern end of our country and coming into the valley here into southern Nevada. Trump was in charge. Trump was in office. And I find that curious because it was like 7 months later, after I captured that Trump signed the executive orders to strengthen our resilience to EMPs. And I did a couple different videos on that file too, and I showed that information from the executive orders that Trump signed and getting more operations going and more coordination going between the local, state, and federal level, like tying them all in on their communication lines so they can respond better to certain events. And, you know, I find that curious because what also, you know, is Trump known for and associated with is what else? Tesla tech, which I myself believe is ancient technology that was once used, but it was abused and caused some serious issues, and they're attempting to harness and control it again. And I think they're going to make some big mistakes, because no matter how hard they try, and we know they're trying, no matter how hard they try, they will not be able to ever control any of these elements that we're exposed to the way that nature can, and the way that the natural flow of things can go. They'll never be able to match nature's ability to counter those variabilities, those variables, excuse me, the variabilities, yeah. It's those variables that they constantly prepare for, and that's why they do all those missions. That's why they do all of the testing. And they're doing red flag exercises here in Nevada, again, just to the north right now as I speak. So there's a reason why they do all that stuff. It's to prepare for other things. So I have to wonder, with them gearing up what they're doing right now, even today, there's a lot of testing and a lot of stuff going on in our upper atmosphere right now. And they're preparing for something, who knows what. But the thing of it is, the dates and the times and the schedules for them to meet their objectives, whether they're short-term or long-term, some of them are decades long. And I find the date curious that back on August 11th in 1958, which would have been 60 years from when I captured that line of energy coming in, that Orange was launched 12 days after Teak on August 11th of 1958. Orange, like Teak, was launched using a Redstone missile and had a yield of 3.8 megatons of TNT. The same safety precautions used by Teak were implemented for the Orange launch. Orange. Seeing how smoothly the evacuation for the Teak launch went, it was decided that the evacuation did not need to occur the day before the launch, and 808 men were evacuated on August 11th to an aircraft carrier about 70 kilometers northeast of the island. Along with protection for the project crew, it was decided after Teak, the Sand Island, a local bird refuge would need protection from the blast as well. To make sure that most of the wildlife was safe, a smoke screen was created over Sand Island. Due to interest in Hawaii, It was announced on August 11th that there would be a nuclear test sometime between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So again, the date. Today is August 11th, 2023, which would be 65 years to the date that this nuclear test was performed out there. And Hawaii is burning today. I don't think that's a coincidence. These people run and operate on routines, and they don't typically deviate. And I wanted to just show the dates again. I think there was another part in this here. I wanted to. It was in this very beginning part. You can see here's where some of the images showing where it was taken. I might do that in another video. I wanted to mainly show just the date. Really, it must not have been in this file. It might have been in this one. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, this is another one. You got to consider the source. Of course, it says Wikipedia, so I got to wonder their files and their operation and their documentation, excuse me, of the orange test states that it was August 11th of 1958. Okay, and then for Argus 1 here, or for Hardtack Orange, excuse me, Hardtack Orange, Johnston Island, Pacific. They have it listed as August 12th, which technically back on August 11th, 2018, like I said before, because I'm repetitive, it was, you know, August 11th here in Nevada, but it was already August 12th in the UTC. But yeah, this is an interesting read here. But again, I don't want this video to be too long. Yeah, there it is. Here it is. This was kind of leading up to, this is the operations here. The launching date of the first satellite, Explorer 4, was established as 26 July 1958, plus or minus 2 days. That's why I find all of the sky activity recently throughout July around here was kind of curious too, because of the dates, just, you know, when it comes to a routine of things, you know. The timing of this launch was crucial because Argus could not be postponed. Explorer 4 was to monitor natural background radiation, after which it would measure the effects of the two high-altitude shots in hardtack teak and orange during August, and then monitor the Argus effects in late August and September. The launch occurred on schedule at 10 Eastern Standard Time on 26 July. A Jupiter C missile fired at the Air Force Missile Test Center at Cape Canaveral placed Explorer 4 into the desired orbit. 5 days later, on 31 July, Shot Teak took place at Johnston Island in the North Pacific. Now, mind you, I was capturing other stuff going on in the skies throughout July of 2018 as well, prior to. There's other videos that were put up on my previous channel, but that channel was deleted for hate speech, and unfortunately there were a few of those videos that I lost when they bricked the Mac as well. So anyway, that's another video. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted. The launch of Explorer 5 followed on 10 August, but the satellite failed to go into orbit. The next day, 11 August, Shot Orange was detonated above Johnston Island. So I find that curious that the satellite failed to go into orbit, but they still did the shot. They still did the orange shot. The failure of Explorer 5 did not jeopardize the project because Explorer 4 continued to function and to supply adequate data during each phase of the operation. It recorded background radiation and detected a weak Argus effect during hardtack, and the effect during Argus. Over 40 ground stations located throughout the world tracked Explorer 4 or monitored telemetry, with the result that experimental data confirmed the presence of the effects predicted by Christophilus, reference number 26. Okay, I don't want to go too much further. I want to try to find the paragraph where they discuss about this operation. Was not really known to too many people. Kind of find that. I know I have it dog-eared. A lot of these pages are dog-eared bad. Let me see. This might be it. Yeah, this was another interesting point here. The most significant change in Argus planning took place during June and July of 1958. In June, the Chief Special Weapons Test Project and CTF 88, which is a special group that was created. 88 I find very curious because that's your dual 33s. Again, the 33 throughout this whole thing is very curious to me. Suggested that the number of Argus shots be increased from 2 to 3 to enhance the chances of a successful experiment. Chief AFSWP approved this recommendation and passed it on to the Division of Military Application, the DMA, at the AEC. On 3 July, the DMA reported to the Chief that the AEC would authorize the release of the additional warhead. So, but there's another part here that I wanted to share because they talk about how it was kept, it had to be kept a secret. Let me see. Yes, I'll just go, right, this is chapter 1 here. I'll start reading some of this and then I can do another video because this one is already long enough and you're probably already bored and tired of hearing my voice. This is the inception of Operation Argus, okay? Introduction. In late August and early September of 1958, Navy Task Force 88, interesting, I'll do some more information on that task force because I do have additional information on that. But again, this video is long enough anyway. Again, your dual 33s, consisting of 9 ships and approximately 4,500 men, secretly conducted 3 high-altitude nuclear tests in the South Atlantic. So again, do you really think that if they conducted another one of these tests out there in that extreme South Pacific proving grounds back on August 11th of 2018, do you really think they would have told everybody about it? And I have to wonder, with the succession of events that occurred throughout 2019 and then 2020, were we subjected to one of these tests? I think that's a legitimate question, especially since it falls right on the anniversary. The operation was conducted under the code name Argus. In each of these tests, the task force launched from the missile trial ship USS Norton Sound, a specially modified X-17, letter Q, A, yeah, X-17, Q, 17, Q is the 17th letter. I couldn't get that out. How about that? 3-stage ballistic missile carrying a low-yield nuclear warhead, which was detonated high in the Earth's upper atmosphere. Upon completion of these launchings on 6 September, the task force departed the operating area for Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then to home ports in the United States. Not until March 1959 did the United States government acknowledge that TF-88 had been sent to sea to conduct those nuclear tests. So again, I have to wonder, the dates are curious because it was in March of 2019 when Trump signed in those additional executive orders to strengthen our resilience to EMPs. Argus was unique among U.S. atmospheric nuclear testing operations in a number of respects. It was one of the most expeditiously planned and executed of all U.S. nuclear tests, requiring just 5 months from inception to execution, in contrast to the normal period of 1 or more years. Operation Warp Speed too, right? It was the only clandestine test series conducted during the 17-year period of atmospheric testing. It was also the first shipboard launch of a ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead. And it was the only atmospheric nuclear test operation in the Atlantic Ocean. Most significant of all, the purpose of Argus did not fit the usual categories. The Argus shots, strictly speaking, involved neither diagnostic tests of a weapon design nor effects tests on military systems. The objective of Argus was to establish the practicability of a theory postulating that a very high altitude nuclear detonation of proper yield would produce phenomena of potentially significant military importance by interfering with communications and weapon performance, strengthening our resilience. When the Eisenhower administration officially announced the occurrence of the tests on 19 March 1959, and again, the synchronicity and the weirdnicity of it all, folks, is that I was born on March 18th, according to my birth certificate. But I had several years where my older sister would always get me 2 birthday cards because my family and my siblings always insisted that I was born on March 19th. My birth certificate says March 18th, and I celebrated my birthday on March 19th for years before I actually looked at my birth certificate and realized it and asked. Tell me that's not some weird ass synchronicity when it comes to this shit. When the Eisenhower administration officially announced the occurrence of the tests on 19 March 1959, the New York Times headlined Argus as the greatest scientific experiment ever conducted. By all means, yes. Let's just applaud science and you nuking our freaking planet. Yay. Sorry, folks. I'm going to read some more into this when I can catch my breath again, and bring up this really quick before I end this video. There'll be more to this for sure, because I'm not going to let it go. That back on August 11th of 2018, I captured what appears to be a very large line of energy coming from the upper atmosphere, because if you look at the video like I showed, because I'm repetitive, I gotta say it again, if you look at the video, there are layers to that bubble as it presses in from the upper atmosphere. That had to have been coming from several layers of our upper atmosphere and pushing down. And what did it bring with it? Think about it, folks. When they detonate these things off, and when these things pop off, think about it. It kind of purges the air. Everything out in that path of that. We absorbed everything that would have been up in the atmosphere to the extreme South Pacific. Let's just say that. Whatever that was, we did not just absorb the energy from it, we absorbed every particle from microscopic to larger. We absorbed it. It was forced down on us back on August 11th of 2018. And when I see what started occurring throughout 2019 and late 2019, just about everybody that I knew was sick. Sicker than dogs. They were closing schools down. Y'all don't realize it. But back in 2019, research it. I've got some of it documented in the form of news articles and videos that I saved in my files on my computer. Throughout 2019, they were closing down schools in July because there were people coming down with sicknesses and illnesses throughout the entire country. And then they also had the whole vape scare, where there was these vapes coming out of, China or someplace, that was making kids sick, having respiratory issues with kids and people that were vaping. And they outlawed it for a short period of time. There was Christmases, parties, and things that were canceled in December of 2019. I remember it specifically because I was still on Facebook back then. That was before COVID, so I was still allowed to talk to the public, before I became medical misinformation and labeled and pretty much deleted. That's about everybody that I knew was sick, sicker than dogs in December of 2019. And then what do we have in 2020? They pop off the whole COVID thing, and then the next thing you know, a few months later, they pop off the whole GF thing, the George Floyd thing. And I'm telling you what, folks, if you are interested in learning symbolisms, okay, I'm gonna end this video, and I'll go into some more of this here, because I want to point out how some of those auroras and that stuff that we're seeing in the skies that everybody thinks is just beautiful and gorgeous is actually fake. But that's a whole nother thing, and I don't want to offend anybody with that, because that's a whole nother thing. But let's just say that I want to present some more information, some of the documentation that I have concerning the whole George Floyd thing. If you're somebody that is interested in learning how to decipher some of the symbols and some of the signs and some of the signatures of some of these things that are going on around us, so that you can recognize how to create a reaction to it, instead of your initial, when you get triggered, your initial reaction is to respond in a certain way. But if you're aware of, and you can see the symbols and the symbolism and the signatures and the signs of these things, you can know that, well, that's just that, and I'm not going to give them the time of day to respond to that, and that's that in that way. I'm not going to give them the opportunity to put me, I shouldn't say put me, I'm not going to put myself into a vulnerable position out there where they can actually do something to stop me. You know what I mean? So I want to do a series of videos, and I'm going to save it for the locals only. I'm not even going to trust Rumble, because in some of these videos and the documentation that I did on George Floyd, I go very deep into some of the symbolism around that whole operation, and I show some documentation of some things of some of the actors involved with that whole operation that it would probably get me into some trouble. So I'm going to try to do it on locals only. And if anybody is interested in learning how to decipher some of those symbols and stuff that was around the whole George Floyd thing, you'll have to try to get onto locals. And as far as I know, it's free, and I can offer, I'm offering everything that I have on there and uploaded now is free for everyone. I don't have anything set for just supporters only. But in the future, it'd be kind of nice to be able to do that so that I can kind of keep a little bit more track of who it is that's, watching my stuff too. When it comes to exposing something like that, one of those operations, I definitely don't want to do it on YouTube, and I don't think I want to do it on Rumble either. So anyway, that's enough. This video is long enough. I have much more information to share concerning this whole thing though. Balloon nuclear detonation. I have more on the EMP history. I have additional information concerning the high altitude nuclear explosions, and then this file here is very curious, this whole chronological of all the testing. So I'll do another video and go into a little bit more of this, but I just wanted to point out the dates. And because I'm repetitive, I'm going to reiterate again, really the whole point of this video was just to kind of point out that back on August 11th of 1958, 60 years before August 11th of 2018, when I captured that line of energy coming on, they were conducting nuclear tests off in that direction. And then now, 65 years later to the day after testing these things, Hawaii is on fire again. And it just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. And I know these people do routines and they have long-term objectives, and they don't care about people at ground level. Thanks for watching.
Okay, folks, so I'm hoping that you can hear me okay and it's not too tinny. I'm having problems with that microphone headset that I was using, so I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can just to share. I'm going to share some of these links as well. This is the executive order that I mentioned that Trump had signed in, and you notice the date is March 26th of 2019. Now back in 1959, it was on March 19th when Eisenhower had made it known to the public that they had done this secret nuclear test out there called Orange. And I just, again, because I'm repetitive, I have to say it again, that the synchronicities and the weird symbolism going on there with the whole Orange Association and Orange Main Bad and all of that, and Trump's association with Tesla Tech and all of that, and this, thing um, popping off here, back in 2018, today, just is another reminder of things that are just so much out of our control. And I'll put a link in the description here as well, but it doesn't necessarily have to be out of our control. You know what I mean? It's only been 5 years since this occurred. There's got to be some way that we can come through some kind of a transparency agreement with these people in charge of testing these things. Because either we tested something back on August 11th of 2018 per a routine, or we were attacked. Either way, it's not something that a lot of people are talking about. It almost seems like I'm the only one that is actually talking about this event that occurred back on August 11th of 2018. And another thing that I did not include in the video showing all the paperwork was that NASA also claims that back on August 11th of 2018, this was the night and this was the period in the time frame when they supposedly launched their Parker solar probe, which was supposed to be headed right towards the sun, right? So it's just weird. I'll put a link in the description for this report to Congress. This is part 1 of the report to Congress weather modification, and I'm going to create a playlist specifically for all of these videos that I did concerning the congressional report for weather modification that was submitted by the Department of Commerce back in 1979. I'll create an entire playlist for that, and I'm getting ready to do one of the final parts for another reading to read a little bit more into that as well. And another reminder, we already passed the anniversary of when this popped off over there to the south of our location, right there. I'll put a link in the description for this as well. This occurred last year in July. This here was another occurrence as well. Some more extreme lightning that was occurring back around this particular time. Another one from July 17th of 22 showing more of the beams. And then we're coming up on the anniversary as well of when this thing drifted over. This right here drifted over back August 17th of 2019. And I think that whatever this was that happened in 2018 when this popped off, it sent out a lot of energy throughout the entire atmosphere. Okay. And I think that it affected this. And what I think this is one of the X-37Bs that wasn't supposed to be up at the time. And it wasn't until 2020 when the information finally surfaced and they made it known to the public that the X-37B had been up there well beyond its, it extended its original path and project. So this is coming up on an anniversary. I'll probably do another video featuring this as well, but I'll put a link in the description for new subscribers if you want to check that out. This was interesting capture as well. And as far as this line of energy here that came in, I do believe it was part of something much, much bigger that they did not tell us about. And I seem to be the only one that is talking about it. And this whole thing with Trump, Orange Man Bad, Operation Orange, Hardtack, the Operation Orange, the most secret and clandestine nuclear test in our history. And here it is again, 65 years later, and Hawaii is burning. Thanks for tuning in, folks. You have no idea how much I appreciate you tuning in. You're just you have no idea. I can't express to you how important it is for me to have some allies right now after capturing some of the things that I'm capturing. I really want some solid answers from people on some of these things. And I need the support of having you just viewing the videos, liking, subscribing, sharing, just making this well known. More people need to know about these things that are going on. And again, because I'm repetitive, I gotta say it again. This did not come from the sun. This was not a solar flare or a CME. The angle of the sun was not proper for that to suit that theory. This came from the extreme Southwest Pacific. And it just happened to be on the 60th anniversary of the date when they popped off the most secret nuclear test in the nuclear testing history. Is that just a coincidence? I don't think so. That's just my opinion, though. Again, thank y'all. I appreciate you more than you know.